Before we begin this video, I wanted to say I read your guys' comments from the last video, and I want to thank you all for the feedback and positivity. I was worried no one would like my self-imposed challenge, but looking at everyone's comments really made my day. I don't want to bore you all with the sap, so I'll get right into the video. Welcome everyone to the Battlebit Support Challenge, Episode 2. Before you watch this video, I recommend you watch Episode 1, or focus more on my improvement in mechanics and understanding of how to play the class, rather than just frag and get kills. Unfortunately, the content you see now is before I read some of your guys' feedback from the comments. So to those who wanted to see your builds in this video, it'd have to be pushed to Episodes 3 and 4. So, spoilers, I guess. This challenge will be a very long and tedious process, but I have been enjoying myself trying out these different builds and weapons, so without any more delay, let me tell you. Day 4. I dubbed today the Rise and Fall. We started the day off pretty well. We got into a Town game, and a map I don't care much for, and yet I did surprisingly well. With my exo helmet and heavy armor combo from the last video, I got a few cheap kills, and I'm not ashamed to admit, and went 38 and 9. Not too bad. Besides a couple of multi-kills and the fact I traded my trophy system for the C4s, nothing stood out with this game exactly. And I'll admit in this game, the C4 pick was absolutely amazing. I used it to get a few kills through walls, jump up buildings, and snag a kill when enemies were pushing. But I will say I stopped going for a sit in one place kind of playstyle, so I was running around the map. Usually this would mean certain death, but the lack of players paying attention to my loud footsteps flanking, countering their flanks, or even just taking out a few campers allowed me to get up and be proactive within the game. It felt fresh and was completely new experience to me. Something I will admit is in Town, at least, the difference is the wide open versus the areas with houses, or even inside the houses themselves was like night and day. If I got even a bit too pushed away from trees or bushes, marksman rifles were wailing away at me. But I was otherwise very impressed and happy with this first match of the day. Then we have the match right after, which was on Sandy Sunset, on Frontline. As if these two things weren't bad enough for me already, mixing them made it so much worse. I felt like I couldn't play, and as a matter of fact, the only time I felt like I was playing was at the very beginning when I was holding down a box in front of the enemy spawn. The rest of the match was downhill after that. I didn't even place horribly is the funny part. I went 45 and 19 at the end of the game, which to me is pretty impressive. But the whole ordeal with the map just put a sour taste in my mouth. Snipers were a big issue. I even had someone on my team that I realized only after were using marksman rifles. And use what you want, but I'm pretty sure if you're trying to counter snipe, you shouldn't be 1,000 meters away from the sniper. I hear the argument that my teammate couldn't push up, but come on, just swap to an actual sniper and hit their heads. Overall, I had a few good moments, like the beginning mentioned before, a couple of triple kills when running to protect my team's last objective, and it was not easy, by the way. My mental hit the floor completely. I really only had time for 2 games that day, as it was getting late by the time I finished. Although things were progressing, I couldn't help but wonder if I could be doing better. To recollect myself and to see what progress I've made over the past few days, I took a peek at my stats to see how long it would take for me to get the support to my #1 spot in my most played classes. So my kills overall on support was 827. My most of all classes is 2,250 on the assault class. My time played on support was 10.52 hours long. My most on all classes at this point was 28.5 hours with assault. So if I played 2 hours every day, it would take me 9 days to achieve this challenge. Which is not awful, actually. So by the time this video drops, I may have already completed one of the criteria I needed to complete the challenge. And I know today wasn't precisely the longest session, but it wasn't a bad one either. But my hopes and emotions were completely flipped on day 5, the Golden Games. To start the day, we looked at the progression of our guns. For the L86, we had 288 kills. For the MG36, we had 129. The M249 had 280 kills. And lastly, the Ultimax with 77 kills. I was still a little bitter about the last game on day 4, but I felt good about today. Our first match was a Conquest Kodiak game, and I used the L86 build, of course, with the Exo Helmet and Heavy Armor to keep up with the aggression. I kept to my C4s because they were working out for my highly aggressive playstyle. I wanted to finish the 500 kills with the L86 first, because I was already so close to it that I had a few good plays during the match, a nice flank, but Kodiak, even after the grass changes, I still had visibility issues, with people on rocks or behind the small hills. Overall, I felt I did my best and performed accordingly. With 41 kills and 23 deaths rounding out the game, we scored our first win of the day. Before I get into the next game, I want to mention that I do apologize for the most part. My builds have been super aggressive and pushy. And as I explained in my last video, you do not want to strive for this kind of playstyle. But I will still figure out the limits you can go, and I go even further with these aggressive playstyles on a later date. But trust me, these are going to be the last few times that I use an assault class playstyle. Hopping into game 2, we have Conquest on Salhan. I don't know how you say it, really. I have mixed opinions with this map, actually. On one hand, there's a lot of angles you could hold down with support, specifically on C and E sites. With a few areas to breach an objective, supports and snipers dominate on the battlefield here. And that did show through my gameplay, snagging many multi-kills while trading my life often. Snipers on Salhan are an obstacle, but nowhere near as hard to deal with maps like Wakistan, where you must cross the open field to even get a chance to deal with them. Even with an Exo Helmet, I felt like I was getting one tap to the dome, but I take it with a grain of skill issue. I had a really good chain going near the end of the match, where we sat at the enemy's spawn border at Objective D and continued to deny their push onto the site until the game ended with me going 40 and 23. Ironically, the same as last match, and it was another win. I didn't realize it at the time, but my builds were actually being super useful in the game. I realized that I was building really fast and set up spots for my team to hold down. And it wasn't until someone in my comments actually mentioned what they thought was support's best factor in the classes being the instant builds. I feel so stupid for not adding it into last episode, let alone even realizing it in the first place. So thank you, Cypher77, for educating me on something I should have known earlier. It feels like I did notice, but never realized it. Game 3 was another Conquest Kodiak game, and unlike the first Kodiak game, I was holding down an objective with a new build using the MG36 instead of the L86. Since I wanted some diversity and some more attachments before we prestige, I figured since the enemies were too busy trying to fight for A and B, I would hold up just outside the radius for my team to respawn and take the sites together. And it worked great. It felt good to play the map, even with the assault classes jumping around everywhere. And if you are playing support on Kodiak, I do recommend staying in one place. Staying in one place helped me focus on killing attackers who refused to swing me, or they just flat out ignored me because they thought they did enough damage. I had some unlucky deaths here and there, but overall, I felt in control of my space. If there was an enemy in front of me, they usually died shortly after. I do wish there had been more medics around though. Because of the constant fighting, there was bandage spam by my team and there were not enough ammo kits in the world that could have resupplied us enough. I also started grenade spamming, a lot. I got a lot of cheap kills with the grenades here, and it's the start of me trying to use different grenades than just impacts and smokes. We finished with another win with 36 kills and 20 deaths. It's pretty bad, but I mean, it was alright. In the fourth and final game of the day, I wanted to keep the momentum going, so we locked in for a walkathon game where I used the same build as the last game. I feel like the MG gets overlooked like the LED6 does. Unfortunately, I understand the stats in it are mediocre, but there are only 3 other options for support. For me, the selling point of this gun is the controllable recoil, and the fact that it has better stats with a smaller mag than the M249, which to me was quite impressive. I will admit I like the M249 more for the tight corridor spam, but for playing like an assault class who has instant builds and damn near infinite ammo, this gun is perfect. It helps boost a more aggressive playstyle while also being able to lay down fire on groups of enemies. If you do unlock this gun, try it. Tell me what you think about it, and if you already use it, what do you guys build on it? In this video, I used a BZ URK grip with a red dot and a tactical barrel, which felt fun, but I tried it as an anti-flank build on another day, and that I admit I liked as much, if not just a little more. It was a good thing I picked up this build because I could already tell that the snipers were going to give me a hard time all game. I had to rush from F to C through open fields too many times to count, and they refused to let me get anywhere close to them for a while. So being able to switch to the MG and C4 was good to make pushes and denials possible. After the snipers got the memo and swapped off, I changed the trophy systems and began spamming them on the bridge pushes with the team, while also pushing the sides of C to clear out as many enemies as I could. A few enemies did try to flank us though, but my team put a stop to that quicker than the victory screen popped up. At the end of the day, I realized I hit rank 200 and was able to prestige. For the most part, I was scared and a bit nervous. To do a grind like before would be difficult significantly, since I would be limiting myself to using the LED6 only for a good while, as well as having less gadgets, grenades, and armor types, and sidearms. But in the end, I caved in and prestiged. I was glad I did, but I knew at the very end that the next day would most likely be a nightmare to deal with. As I predicted from the night before, today would not be easy. I did struggle a bit in the middle of the day because I had very little optimization. For reference, I have been using heavy armor, which had more ammo and speed for less durability. I thought heavy armor was the default armor you could get at level 0. Boy, was I wrong. So now I was stuck with the LED6 and exo armor until at least level 20, when I unlocked heavy armor and, more importantly, the M249. I had a hard time for the first match on District. Just like Kodiak, District has always had a visibility issue before and after the major reworks. In this game, I was more focused on getting experience than getting kills because, this game, I imposed a new challenge for myself. After I get 500 kills with any weapon, I would not be able to use it anymore. So if I got 500 kills with the LED6 and wasn't level 20 yet, I was stuck using sidearms, grenades, and C4s for kills. By the end of the match though, I was only a few kills away, which really set the ante up for the next match. On one end, I would no longer need to use the LED6 for the challenge, making the challenge a whole lot easier. On the other end, I would struggle to gain any experience if I needed to level up for the next gun. If this sounds torturous to you, it's because at this low of a level, it really is. So I ended the match on District and went to another game of Bastra. For some reason, we barely played this map during the challenge, which is odd to me because this map has been a community favorite from all classes, and it's hard not to like it. You have wide open areas for snipers, vehicle span for engineers, long corridors for support, aggressive flanks for assaults, and tight rooms for medics to spam heals around. That being said, I understand it's hard to have fun if you're getting stomped. I don't think there's much that the devs can do to the map to prohibit something like that. I would say make the map smaller or lower the mountains, but that would ruin a few of the class's experiences. If you made it this far, comment on what map you guys would change and how you would change it. For the third match of the day, we went into Daytime Lenovo. If you know why I specified, you know that this was going to be a terrible match. I didn't do great here. Lenovo Day is a map snipers love, while all the other classes hate, because it feels like every building is a maze. And even though there's a ton of angles and corridors, to me, support feels sluggish here. I think the hallways in this map are too swirly for me to hold down an angle, or even corner camp. So this was a game where I played the Find the Snipers. Because if you could find yourself on a rooftop, you have control of your side of the map. The odd thing with Lenovo is that it's a great map, just not in the day. Something to note is every Battlebit map has two versions, day and night. Night maps are the exact same maps, but you're forced to use a pair of night vision goggles, and this changes how every gun works completely. Recon is a borderline useless class at night, because when night vision is equipped, you are not allowed to use medium scopes or higher, meaning all snipers are no longer able to be used unless you have a sight that is a one-time scope at the top. The problem with this is now you have the top of a scope clogging your screen with a tiny reticle. So it is almost impossible to track people. For the most part, this won't change any map's dynamic with the classes since only a few people use the medium scopes. So when people vote for Lenovo Day, you can expect a lot of recon mains in your match. Well, I wanted to get this match over with, so we got a quick dub and went on to another game with Kodiak. I'm going to be honest, I'm tired of writing about this map, so I'm going to spoil it for you guys. I played like I did on day 5, went 28-18 and lost. Whoops. Then we got into the next, and the L86's last game of the day on Salhan. I knew this game would be the last time I used the L86 as long as I kept this rule in place, and I kept a count of how many kills I needed until the end of the road. I wouldn't even go over 500 kills with it either. But I must admit, I did terribly. The adrenaline that surged through me when I inched closer and closer to the 500 kill mark was astounding. It led to me playing really bad, trading my life for a kill or sometimes none. There were times where I refused to resupply my team. I don't think anyone should play like I did this match, but the closer we got, the sooner I'd be back to supporting my team. And then we hit it. That's it. We did it. 500 kills. The first gun. Oh my god. Holy shit. I'm surprised we did it. I'm actually like so surprised. Okay, well, pistol only for a while, I guess. Pistol and whatever else I can get. That's not anything. I freaked out for a moment and celebrated before switching to my pistol and moving on with some more picks. But a support with only a pistol and some C4 is not really a support. I couldn't get any kills, let alone get across the map. So I really fell off with my KD. And I was one level from 20, so I really focused on getting some XP so I could use the M249. And luckily, for my mental health and the video series, I managed to get there before the end of the match. And after just one level of the no primary challenge, I called it quits there. The struggle I realized I'd go through if I got 500 kills with the M249 and forced myself to use dinky pistols to level 100, it was just too much for me to bear. So we finished this match and called it a night there. Is what I would say if I could sleep. But that night, I couldn't sleep, so I played one match to ease my nerves. The night's last game was on Frugus, a map loved by grenade spamming players. I used the M249 the whole way through and played outside for the most part. There were a couple of fights at Objective C that required me to put down some trophy systems, but for the most part, I was allowed to push with my team and take control of the battlefield. After the anxiety-inducing last match, I needed this change of pace to slow down my heart and collect my thoughts. And I won't lie, this match was a stomp. We beat the enemies with over 1,000 points still left, as most players on the enemy team quit. First I thought it was because there were cheaters on my team, but no. I spectated our top players and they were just chilling at their spawn, killing whoever got in front of their building first. Of course, I joined to get some kills on my M249, but we ultimately beat them before I could get any crazy numbers. I did have to report one person on the enemy team for being racist and telling me to kill myself, which after I went to report them, it looked like they were a repeat offender by a lot. For everyone watching, if someone like that guy is in your match, don't be ashamed to report them. Battlebit is a very positive community, and people like that only taint the positive place that the devs and server owners are building. But with that, the night was finished. I got super sleepy from the last match and went to bed on a positive note. I am planning to get the MG36 on the next day. I know because of me prestiging, this challenge will take a lot longer than previously thought, but I must say I'm very happy with the way it's going about. I feel like I'm improving in not just the gaming sense, but editing sense as well. It's a lot of fun to upload these videos, and I'm glad to see the community react so positively to it. This video took a lot longer than the first one to make, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. With that being said, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.